Hello, and welcome back to Let's Play Ultima 6, The False Prophet. In our last episode, the Avatar and his companions had discovered the means to free the Shrines of Virtue, and had gone ahead and freed the Shrine of Compassion, leaving only 7 shrines still in possession of the gargoyles. However, the Avatar is no closer to understanding the true nature of this threat. Why are the gargoyles attacking? What do they want? At this point, we don't know. So, in order to find out more about this, we're going to have to start talking to the people of the realm, people who've been here all along. After all, the Avatar did just arrive from Earth and is not really privy to everything that's going on, so let's go ahead and get on with that. As you might remember from our last episode, we've already come up here and visited the conservatory, Sir Kenneth, Lady Nan, and Ariana, so let's go ahead and explore the rest of this building. This is certainly an interesting sort of place. Let's talk to this lady here. You see a slender woman wearing a leather glove on her left hand. Hello, and welcome, my lord. What's your name? My name is Kyton, she smiles. Perhaps that explains why I like birds. Birds? I used to be a falconer. That was before Lord British appointed me to my current position. A true gentleman, if ever I saw one. Well, what's your job, Kyton? I'm the curator of the Royal Museum of Oddities. I'm guessing we're in the museum now. It's just one of the projects Lord British has funded to provide a better life for his people. He also established a conservatory that shares the building with this museum. The roads that span the realm are his doing as well. Ah, yes, we just visited the conservatory, in fact. Sometimes I can hear their music drifting through the walls. Usually that noisy, crackling field drowns it out, though. We heard the music, too. It is very pretty. What about the roads he's built? Travel is much easier these days. Well, I hope so. Travel in the previous Ultimas has always been a little fraught with peril. That's for sure. So you say you run this Museum of Oddities. I can tell you more about any of the exhibits you're interested in. Well, let's see what there is. We have the monolith, the energy field, the perpetual motion machine, the bones of Zog, the mystery fountain, and the dragon's head, wings, and egg. Which one were you curious about? Well, that's quite a collection. Let's look around here. What about this monolith you're talking about? I can't tell you much about that. Lord British donated it to the museum, but I can't get him to talk about it. From what little he said, I think it's an artifact from his homeworld. That's interesting. What about the energy field? The field is generated by a curious spell. By some process not yet understood, it converts magical energy into electrical energy, producing a continuous discharge. If we understood this process better, it would probably lead to all sorts of useful applications. Yeah, televisions in Britannia. What about this perpetual motion machine? That's a very curious device. The motion of each gear turns another until eventually the movement is propagated back to the same gear again. There's one thing I can't figure out. We've made plans of the device, and I can't see how they started it moving in the first place. None of the gears would turn unless all the others were already going. What's worse, the motion served to hold the machine together. If the gears were still, the whole thing would fall apart. How it was built is quite a mystery. Well, that just makes my head hurt. Tell me about these bones of Zog. This skeleton seems to be about 10 times older than any other ever found in Britannia. Surely it has much to tell us about our origins, if only we knew what it meant. Alright, well what about this dragon's egg? Someone named Gurtan donated all those parts. I think he said something about a dragon named Freitag. Oh, Gurtan, you say? If you want to ask Gurtan, I think he's in Cove. We actually did speak with Gurtan. If we go back to Cove, we'll have to ask him about this dragon, because that's quite a artifact there. Well, it was nice to speak with you, Kyton. Be sure to have a look at our paintings while you're here, and come again soon. We're expecting some unicorn horns and a Klein bottle from Trinsic. So let's take a quick look here. Here's this monolith that Lord British brought from his homeland. Maybe it's a piece of Stonehenge. You know what? We didn't ask her about that fountain. Somebody found a huge boulder with a jet of water spraying out of it. We had it magically teleported here, buried with its surface flush with the ground, and then we built this building on top of it. Of course, we left a hole in the floor for the water to spray through. I often drink from it when I'm thirsty. The water is quite good, but there's something strange about it. It vanishes somehow before it hits the ground. You're braver than me if you're going to drink magic ground rock water, but either way, there's this magic fountain. Can we drink from it? Let's make a wish. Let's wish for world peace. No effect, unfortunately. Here's this magical field, energy field. Here's this perpetual motion machine, which requires it to already be put together and moving in order for it to be put together and moving. Here's the bones of Zog, an ancient ancestor. And here's this dragon parts on display. Alright, well, we've taken a look at this. Now over here, this looks like a governmental building. Let's take a look. You see a preoccupied man holding a ledger under one arm. Records to keep, festivals to plan. I'm so busy. But I can spare you a moment, my lord. Well, what's your name? I am Tholdin von Brasilius, Chancellor to Lord British. In my younger days, I was known as the Werecat of the Wine Cellar. The Werecat? I could tell you stories, but there's no time for that now. Well, you're Lord British's Chancellor. A fine ruler indeed. 'Tis a pleasure to keep his kingdom running smoothly for him. All the little details of governing, all the paperwork falls on my shoulders. Sometimes must do it. Someone must do it. And yet I miss the days when I was a carefree adventurer. Now, we were told that this gentleman knows the mantra of compassion. Looks like we didn't need to speak to him after all, but let's go ahead and talk to him anyway. The rune and mantra of compassion are in the keeping of the bards at the conservatory. I entrusted them with the rune due to their compassionate nature. As for the other runes, they are no longer together as they were when the codex was recovered. Since then, they have become scattered throughout the land. Each was sent to a town near its shrine. If thou dost ask the lords of each of these towns, they should be able to tell thee more. The towns are Moonglow, Gelam, Yu, Minok, Trinsic, Scarbray, and New Magentia. That is very useful information. And as for the conservatory, 'twas founded by Lord British. And you mentioned the codex. 'Tis the greatest treasure in all the realm. Well, you're welcome, sir. Tholdin bows deeply. I hope I have been of assistance, my lord. You have. Basically, we have a path forward. If we're going to need the runes and mantras in order to go ahead and free the other shrines, well, we'll have to speak with the mayors of each of the other 7 towns. Who is this? You see a sharply dressed, very voluptuous woman. Hello, my name's Terry. I run the mint. Say, aren't you the Avatar? Yes, I recognize you from your portrait. My mother used to tell me stories about you when I was a girl. You probably wouldn't remember her, but she was at the big celebration right after you recovered the codex. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that I always hoped someday I'd meet a man like you. What was your name again? It's Terry. Don't you think that would be a good name for an Avatar's wife? I guess so. She winks at you. What's your job, Terry? By royal decree, I am the only one allowed to mint the official coinage of the realm. Copper pence, silver pieces, and gold crowns. They're all made right here. My father ran the mint before me, but I get lonely here sometimes. It's so nice of you to come by and talk to me. Chitin will never believe it when I get to tell her I got to meet the Avatar in person. You really seem to like the Avatar. You must be the bravest man I've ever met. I can't believe it's really you. Well, we already met Chitin over at the museum. She's a good friend of mine. She runs the museum. You should visit there sometime, but please stay and talk to me a bit longer first. Well, tell me about your father, Terry. May he rest in peace. Well, that's awkward. So you have gold pence here. Of course, I'm sure you only carry gold crowns with you, being as important as you are. She reaches over and squeezes your shoulder affectionately. Britannia has been so prosperous lately that there's been a lot of demand for gold coinage. Of course, we have you to thank for bringing us the codex and saving Lord British. I get most of my gold from people who bring in nuggets to exchange them for coins. Do you have any gold nuggets you'd like to trade in for crowns? Well, actually, we do. Dupre's holding some. Normally, there's a 10% tax on the exchange. But since you're the avatar, I'll give you a full 100 crowns for every stone's weight of gold you have. She exchanges all of your gold nuggets for newly minted crowns. Well, that's very useful. So you mint the coins. Here, let me show you. She takes out a sample of each coin for you to look at. The pence has an ankh on one side and crossed swords on the other. The silver piece has Lord British's face on the front and a serpent on the back. And the gold crown is a familiar sight with a crown and the symbol of the codex. All three of them look newly minted. They're very shiny. I get most of my gold from people who bring in nuggets to exchange them for coins. Do you have any gold nuggets you'd like to trade in for crowns? Well, not anymore. Well, if you do later, you know where to find me. Goodbye, Terry. I know you're very busy saving Britannia and all that, but I hope you'll come and visit me again. And maybe if you have time for it, I could show you more than a few silly coins. As you turn to leave, she pinches you. Well, that was an interesting encounter, so let's move on with the rest of the town. Let's take a look at what Dupre's holding right now. Yep, in addition to the 75 coins, he now has 120. So let's go ahead and move those into the bag so we can keep track of our money. There we go. Now usually these key symbols represent a guild of some sort. Guild meaning the store that will sell you travel supplies such as powder kegs, backpacks, bags, other various implements you might need for the adventurer's life on the road. You see a grunting and grumbling man with a large stomach. Humph, hello. His breathing is quite heavy. What do you need? What's your name, sir? Ephraim, the provisioner. And what's your job? I sell torches, oil, gems, backpacks, bags, shovels, and powder kegs. Well, we don't really need any of those just yet, but that's good to know in the future. I'm glad you stopped by. He gives you a firm handshake. Let's go ahead and ask him if he knows anything about the gargoyles. Well, haven't we... Never mind. What do you need? Know anything about the gargoyles, sir? I'm sorry. Obviously not, so we'll go ahead and move on. So if we need any provisions, we know where to stop. Strangely, unlike in previous games, the provision shop used to carry lockpicks and keys and such in addition to these other provisions. In Ultima 6, this gentleman doesn't seem to carry those, although he does have one on his desk here. If we ask him about picks, he doesn't seem to be willing to sell them to us, so if we want to get lockpicks, we're going to have to look somewhere else. This building has a little arrow on the side. I guess they sell bows or arrows. You see a petite woman with flowing brown hair. Yolo, and thy companions as well. I heard rumors that you were in town. Yolo greets his former apprentice warmly. How goes business, Gwyneth? Very well indeed. Sir Joffrey himself just placed quite a large order. Much demand for bows these days, what with the gargoyles. Turning to you, Gwyneth says, And what can I do for Yolo's friends this fine morning? Well, you seem to know something about the gargoyles. I hear from the soldiers that the gargoyles are fierce opponents. Some gargoyles move like the wind itself and can strike you like lightning bolts. The gargoyles also have a strange and terrible weapon. What kind of weapon? 'Tis called a boomerang, and it is a most bizarre ranged weapon. It flies out to strike its target, then returns to the hand that threw it. Against such magic, the soldiers chose to arm themselves with good, stout Britannian bows. Well, Britannian bows are pretty awesome. So your name is Gwyneth? Well, a strange question. I'm Gwyneth, of course. Just ask Yolo. Once was I Yolo's apprentice, but then he decided to retire. Now 'tis my shop, and I craft the bows sold here. Course, 'tis still called Yolo's bowls, out of respect for the master. At this, Yolo blushes humbly. She smiles. I would not wish to speak of Yolo amongst his friends. I might embarrass him. So if we are in here, we can go ahead and buy various supplies. Let's go ahead and see what's available here. We can buy bows, crossbows, slings, and magic bows. Magic bows are like regular bows, but a lot more powerful and accurate. For now, though, we don't really need anything extra, so we're going to hold off for now, but we'll keep this in mind for later. Changed your mind, eh? What it'll be next. Goodbye. Farewell, all of you. YOLO, I'll see thee again soon with thy share of this month's profits. Pretty nice business you got there going, YOLO. The next building is the the tavern, which we've already visited. Ariana's parents and and our friend Lazina. Down below here is just someone's house and the inn that we once visited. And here's something interesting. You see a mysterious gypsy woman wearing an Ankh pendant. You are the Avatar. I had a vision that you would come to seek aid from me. Did you? What's your name? Some know me as Tanith. That is what you may call me. Hello, Tanith. Seek not my true name. Let Tanith suffice. True name? You try my patience. What's your job, Tanith? I tell fortunes for a price. Fortunes? I charge 6 gold to cast my tiles. Are you interested? Sure. Best check your purse. Our paths will cross again. I have foreseen it. Dupree? I need some of the money you're holding. Avatar, what do you need money for? I need to get my fortune told by this gypsy woman. You need to have your fortune told. Yes, it seems like a very good use of our funds. But we need that to buy food and supplies. Hush now, Dupree, I need to get my fortune taken. Now, she mentioned that our paths were going to cross again. My path leads to Pause, as soon as I have time to visit there. Pause? My good friend, Dr. Cat, lives there. Ask him about the duck sometime. We'll have to do that if we head down that way. But you said you could tell my fortune. I charge 6 gold. Well, we are interested. From the folds of her cloak she withdraws a velvet pouch. After shaking it gently, she casts forth 3 small squares of ivory, each with an image etched into its surface and a title at the bottom. The tiles are Abyss, Mountains, and Maelstrom. Tanith says, This is strange. The tiles show that to accomplish your ends, you must go down very far, then up very far, but you will not end up back where you started. The Maelstrom indicates something important as well, but I cannot determine what it means. If you consult the tiles another time, perhaps they will have more to say of your future. Well, what else do they say? Bead of glass, maelstrom, and clever fish. Tanith frowns. I cannot interpret this pattern. I'm afraid you'll have to seek its meaning on your own. Well, let's see if there's anything else she can tell me. Shaman, Blade Master, and Clever Fish. Tanith says, all of these things and more must you be to find success in your quest. So we have to be a shaman, a clever fish, and a blade master. Path, War, and Rogue. The War tile is particularly striking. It depicts a dragon and a tiger, each about to bite the other's tail. Tanith says, Britannia is on a path towards all-out war. That is plain enough. The rogue is one who would go against the wishes of his lord to find another path. If you consult the tiles again, they may tell more of your future. Well, let's see if we can find anything else out. Abyss, Mountains, and Maelstrom. Well, once again, we just got the same thing again. It looks like it's just repeating itself at this point, so we found out quite a bit, so let's go ahead and quit for now. Who's this gentleman here? You see a slightly built gypsy lad. Good afternoon. I am called Blaine. I'm a juggler, but I would fain join thee and go adventuring. Well, we might take you up on that offer. But you juggle, you say. I charge 5 gold for juggling. Would you like to see some? Sure. The gypsy juggler takes 3 wands out of his knapsack and sets their ends afire. Tossing them into the air, he begins juggling. The pattern is elaborate, almost hypnotic, as the tips of the wands describe great flaming arcs and spirals through the air. At regular intervals, he tosses one around behind his back. Yet somehow it always finds its way back into the pattern with the other two, without missing a beat. At last he catches all three of the wands in one hand, waves them with a great flourish, and bows deeply before you. As he extinguishes the wands, he says, "I hope you enjoyed the show." Well, that's pretty impressive, actually. I've seen fire jugglers. It's always like a neat thing to see. Here's a little tune to lighten your step on the road ahead. Said the youthful earl to the gypsy girl, as the moon was casting its silver shine, "Dear little lady, my gypsy lady, let me kiss those sweet lips of thine." And who do we have here? You see a gypsy girl poised on the verge of womanhood. "My name is Karina," she says, looking shyly at the ground. "Do you think it's a pretty name?" "Sure." "Thank you." "What's your job, Karina?" "Father said I'm supposed to dance for the Gorgios." "Gorgios?" "That's what we call anyone who isn't a gypsy." "It's a nice life, but it gets lonely. I miss my sister." "Her name is Penumbra. Have you any news of her?" "I'm sorry, I don't." "If you do, please come tell me. I miss her so much." "Your father, though, you said." "He is Zoltan, king of the gypsies." "Well, that's what he says." "And you dance for the Gorgios?" "Oh, I couldn't. I just couldn't. Not in front of so many people." "I'd be too embarrassed." "Don't be embarrassed." "Well, do you promise not to make fun of me?" "Yes." Suddenly she starts dancing a dance of haunting beauty to the sound of music that seems to emanate from nowhere. It's one of the most wondrous sights you've ever seen. After a timeless time, the music ceases, and she turns and runs away. So, this other gentleman up here, I'm guessing might be her father, Zoltan. You see a lively soul of a gypsy with a bit of a wild look to him. "Huzzah! I am Zoltan, king of the gypsies." "Nice to meet you, Zoltan." "Yes, Zoltan, king of the gypsies." "The king? I have no lands nor castles, as most rulers do. Nay, for I am king of the open road. You cannot tie a gypsy down to a single place. We are free spirits and must roam like the wind throughout the land." "So you stick to the road, huh?" "The roads wander everywhere, just like a gypsy. As a gypsy's body wanders, so does his mind. Just now I am thinking of what you might buy for me today." We'll talk about that in just a moment. "Aye, my spirit is free, but my advice is not. So we can buy things from you and get advice from you." Give me just a moment here. We're going to go back and see what else he had to say. He mentioned the wind. "The four winds, they are gypsies too. Ask my people for advice, or what they have to sell. Gypsies see and hear much, and occasionally happen across items of interest." "Oh, well, you said you had some advice for us." "Tell you what, since I'm in a good mood, I'll only charge you 2 gold coins. Is it a deal?" "Sure. I'll tell you this. Powder kegs are useful for persuading uncooperative doors to open." "All right, that might come in handy. What do you have to sell?" It looks like this gentleman sells magical reagents. That'll come in handy. We'll have to keep that in mind for the future, but right now we don't need to buy any, so we'll hold off for now. "Farewell, my fellow gypsies and I will dance to your health and good fortune." Well, I want to ask you about this dancing. Karina produces a fiddle from somewhere and begins to play a tune at a very high tempo. Zoltan dances a wild dance for you, leaping and capering about frantically. His chest glistens with sweat as he walks up to you expectantly. "Do you give him any money?" "Sure." "How much do you give?" "We'll give him 5 gold pieces." Zoltan pockets the money. "Thanks." "There are no women like gypsy women." Well, we've talked with the gypsies. Let's ask if this gentleman has any advice. He said we should talk to them about it. And he'll give us some advice for a gold coin. "Almost due east of Yolo's hut, there lives a powerful enchanter." All right. If we head over to Yolo's hut, we'll keep a lookout for it. Does Karina have any advice for us? "I have to ask you for a gold piece for my advice. Is that okay?" "Yes." "Ask our dog, Kador, to do some tricks for you. He knows lots of them." "He's such a sweet little doggy." "Okay, we'll talk to the dog then." "Cool. Do you sell anything?" I have nothing to sell you. Talk to my father. Goodbye and sweet dreams to you. And do you sell anything? I don't have anything to sell just now. Check back with me next week. And lastly, we'll ask Tanith if she has any advice or things to sell. Look through the books at the Lyceum. You might learn something useful there. Ask Zoltan about it. King of the Gypsies, sure as my name's Tanith. Alright, well, Zoltan seems to know something about the Lyceum. It's on the same island as Moonglow. Moonglow, it's on the same island as the Lyceum. Well, since we're planning to head to Moonglow eventually, we'll go to the Lyceum when we're there and we'll look at the books. Very good. And lastly, does Tanith have anything to sell us? And that was just for her to cast the tiles. Lastly, let's go ahead and talk to the dog here. You see an amiable, shaggy mutt. Woof, woof. What's your name, dog? The dog looks at you with a puzzled expression on his face. What's your job, dog? The dog looks at you with a puzzled expression on his face. Well, let's go ahead and ask him about his tricks, though. The dog looks at you expectantly. Sit. The dog sits. Awesome. Roll over. The dog rolls over. Die. Play dead. That's what I meant to say. The dog plays dead. How about begging? The dog begs. Speak. I feel that the whole debate over free will versus determinism arises from an artificial semantic division. In light of the word of Gödel and Heisenberg, it is evident that the two concepts are indistinguishable, and thus, for all purposes, practical purposes, identical. That's a heck of a speech. The dog picks up a bowl in his mouth and holds it up to you. You see that it has several coins in it already. Do you give him any money? Yes. We'll give him 5 coins as well. The dog seems pleased. Well, now that we've spent a bunch of money, though, but we have gotten some good advice and information from these gypsies, so let's go ahead and head up here. Let's see what else the town of Britain has to offer. You see a tall, willowy woman with long blonde hair. How can I help you this fine afternoon? Well, what's your name? I'm Lynn. Thou needn't tell me thy name, attentive. The Avatar is famous throughout the land. What's your job? I'm a Fletcher. I make arrows and bolts for the armies of Lord British himself. Excellent. So if we ever need to buy arrows, we can go ahead and buy arrows and crossbow bolts for our weaponry if we run low. Is there anything else thou wouldst buy? Not today. Farewell, I hope I've aided thy quest. So here we have a place in this town where we can buy bows, and now we have a place where we can buy arrows. So that's very excellent. Now these scissors mean that this must be a tailor shop. You see a man in a multicolored jacket. His fingers are long and graceful. Good afternoon, my lord. What can I do for you? What's your name, sir? My name is Fyodor. What is thy name? Attentive. Pleased to meet thee, Attentive. What's your job, sir? I make cloth upon my loom. Perhaps you'd like to buy some. Got your loom there? I push the pedals with my feet, like this. Then I pull these levers. The pattern depends on which combinations of levers and pedals I move. My father's loom was not so complicated as mine. This design came from one of Lord British's old books. British's books? Lord British treasures antiques. There is one book for which he hath offered a reward. The Wizard of Oz. I have to say I've heard of it. By Master L. Frank Baum, I believe. It concerns a girl adventurer, a strange land, and a clever balloonist. Balloonist? Are they not made of silk in the form of a great bag? Yeah, as far as I know, yeah, made of silk. 'Tis a wondrous strong stuff, silk, and very light. I regret that I am not skillful enough to weave it. In New Magentia, however, lives the silk weaver, Charlotte. Charlotte? She is the only person I know of who can weave silk. Well, if we need to have any silk weaved, we'll go talk to Charlotte then in New Magentia. That's good to know. It's also good to know that Lord British has offered a reward for the Wizard of Oz, so if we stumble across that book, we'll grab it. May our paths cross again someday. Good to meet you, sir. There's a gentleman standing over here. You see a man wearing a long gray cloak. He wears gloves with the fingers cut off and carries a large hourglass with him. Good afternoon, friend Avatar. What's your name, sir? I'm Daver McCord. Your job? Every hour of the day I ring the bell a number of times. That bell right there? According to the numbers on the hourglass, you see. Ah. Well, I usually know what time it is up here in my head somehow. But just in case, I start this hourglass at sunup, turning it over every 9 hours. You know the time in your head. It's especially important for those with shops. They know when to open for business, eat lunch, close, and that sort of thing. Another of Lord British's innovations, this bell thing. I guess that you don't keep a regular schedule, being the Avatar and all. Probably out till all hours collecting runes and such. Actually, we are looking for the runes. Magical little things. There's a symbol on one side and a letter on the other. Probably spell something out if you put 'em all on a necklace. But that hasn't been done for a long time. After the Codex of Ultimate Wisdom was brought back from the underworld, Lord British gave the runes to the lords of the 8 cities. Lord British appointed lords to rule the 8 cities. Yeah, those 8, we've been to them before. Let's see now, he counts them off on his fingers. Minok, Trinsic, Jalam, Yu, Scarabray, Britain, Moonglow. Ah yes, a new Magentia. I hear each of the lords knows a mantra. A mantra, we're looking for those. Haven't the foggiest what those are for. Something to do with the shrines, I think. Always wanted to visit them. Never had the time. Heh. You look much taller in person. Woodruff's painting does not do you justice. Speak of justice, yeah. I know little of that. I'm just the bell ringer. Well, it was nice to meet you, sir. Until we meet again. And up here, this symbol usually refers to an armory of some kind whenever you see this serpent, similar to the silver serpent insignia that Lord British has. Unfortunately, it looks like the gentleman who works here is not here right now. He's either out eating or I'm not sure. So we'll talk to this gentleman first. You see a short, dark man covered in white flour. Hello there, my friends! As he shakes your hand enthusiastically, clouds of flour fly off his clothes. What's your name, sir? I'm Cullen. Cullen the baker. The baker? I bake goods for Lord British himself, the man says proudly. If you'd like to buy some, just say the word. I'd have thought that'd be obvious. I'm a baker. As he laughs heartily, more clouds of flour rise off his clothing. You can buy bakery goods from me. Or perhaps you have some flour to sell, eh? What sort of things does he have to sell? Bread, cake, and rolls. Interesting. We're not going to buy any right now, though. Suit yourself, attentive, but thou find no better. If we run into any flour, and we'll go ahead and carry it back and sell it to this guy, but for now we don't really need to do anything more with him. Come again soon. With that, we seem to have reached the edge of town. Except there's a small building here at the very top. Who could you be, sir? You see a rotund man in monk's robes. Greetings, my children. What can I do for thee today? Well, what's your name, sir? I am Tiberius, healer for this town. It's my responsibility to care for the sick and injured. I attempt to heal, cure, or if needed, resurrect the fallen. Well, if we run into problems and need somebody to be healed, we'll know where to go. Go in peace, my children. And unfortunately, here we have some graves. Now, around the edge of the town, we're going to run into like people's houses, their bedrooms and such. But that's pretty much everybody who lives in the town. Except there is some farmland up here. Let's see if any of the farmers are about. There's one of the guards. The guards don't actually have all that much to say. We could talk to one for just a moment. Hello, can I help you with something? If you ask any guard his name, I'm not allowed to give out that information. And what's your job, sir? I am one of Lord British's elite guards. We keep order throughout Britannia. Lately our ranks have thinned. Many have been lost in the war against the gargoyles. Few of us are left to patrol the cities, and those may be sent to the shrines soon. I fear we may lose this war. Patrolling? That is our only job in times of peace. May we see such times again. Well, don't worry, you won't lose this war. Not a single shrine have we liberated. The dark gargoyles fight like daemons. I have noticed a certain resemblance. He also mentioned Britannia. Hail, Lord British! Hail, Britannia! Hail, the glorious Avatar! This guy's a little enthusiastic. If that is all, then I'll be back about my duties. Those guys are basically there to enforce law and order. If anybody starts stealing, well, they'll have to deal with them. And then surrounding the town of Britain, there's a little bit of a mountain range here. And unfortunately, I wanted to introduce you to the person who works up here, the person who works on this farm, but they don't seem to be present right now. So, failing that, we'll go ahead and head back to town, and we'll talk to them later. We can always come back here another time. But the last thing I'd like to do before moving on see if this gentleman's returned to his office. And unfortunately he hasn't. So when we come back to Britannia again, we'll talk with the armorer who lives here. But basically, armorers are here to sell weapons and armor. As you can see laying on this table, we can buy swords and other... They sell all sorts of swords and weapons, and the different armorers in the different town sell different weapons. However, they're also useful because, as you might have noticed, we started picking up extra weapons and armor, and Dupre's been holding them. I have no need of this extra sword and this extra mangosh, so armorers will buy those from you, and that's a good way to make some extra gold. Alright, well now it looks like we've talked to pretty much everybody in the town of Britain. There's actually one more person that we're going to speak with if they haven't already left their office, because I notice the sun's starting to go down. The last shop I wanted to show you. Notice this sign. This sign represents the shipwrights building. People who will sell ships and skiffs. And unfortunately this person's already left for business for the day, so again, we'll have to talk with them another time. But if you look over here on this dock, there are some ships here. And unfortunately we can't use these ships because we require a deed. Same thing with the skiffs. If we speak with the gentleman who works here and sells the ships, we can buy a deed from him, and then we can go ahead and use those ships. So that's pretty much everybody in the town of Britain. Now that we've talked with everyone, we have a bit of a path forward. We can have to go from town to town, speak with the mayors of each town, get the mantras and the runes. Once we have those, we can go battle the gargoyles at each shrine and free them. Along the way, one of the towns we're going to be visiting is Moonglow. Once we get there, we're going to go ahead and show Mariah the book that Yola's holding, and that maybe will give us more insight into a way we can deal with this, threat permanently, put a permanent end to this issue. But for now, that's a good place to stop for today, so next time we're going to move on to some more towns and free more shrines. Thanks for watching, folks. I am Attentive Dragon, and I will see all of you next time.